Hey everybody, this is Josh
and Carolyn
with Homesteading Family, and welcome to episode 4 of the Pantry Chat.
Number 4.
That's right.
Are you guys liking the Pantry Chats? I know
we're having a great time.
Yeah, we're having fun.
So we hope you guys are having fun too, and that you're getting some good value out of this.
Yeah, make sure you shoot us an email or leave us a comment below and let us know what you think. If there's questions you guys have.
Yeah, keep the questions coming.
Yeah.
We're trying to do these once a week.
Yeah.
And so shoot us those questions.
I gotta say, it's cold down here today. Our pantry is nice and chilly, just like it should be.
It's on the
It's a
cooler
pantry,
side.
it's
It's in
good.
the basement, and our temps have been in the single digits just about at night.
It's been pretty chilly.
So yeah, it is. It's a little cooler down
Yeah,
here.
so if you see me rubbing my hands, you don't see any frost coming out.
No, it's good. It's a basement. It's nice, but it's definitely on the cooler
It's
side.
a little cooler
of
side,
things,
yeah. So.
And today we're going to be talking about how to start homesteading with no money.
Oh wow, that's a big one.
That's a big topic. But before we get into that, what's up with you? What's going on with your week?
Well, I am on a mission this winter to refill and restock all of our pantry shelves with good food, especially convenience food. So I am continuing on my mission for that. We're working on canning Boston baked beans and hearty hamburger soup right now. And of course, there's always some project that has to happen before that, like making a whole lot of beef broth so that you have something to can with.
Which isn't always normal this time of year, right?
Why, to be doing this kind of
right?
Canning.
Why
No,
why are you having to do this? Not everybody realizes that.
Right. We moved long distances twice this year, and so we really ran down our canned goods because that's a lot of work to move full jars of food. And so we like to keep a nice stock of food, and I love that convenience food just so it's easy to grab, quick to go for a meal. And I like having a big store of that ready for us before we get into the busy spring season, and then of course the preserving season on the other side of that. So.
You need easy food more then than we even need it right now.
Absolutely.
Because boy, when it starts to warm up and we can get outside,
right?
It just there's no end to the energy consumption projects that we've got to get on.
There's just nothing like having a meal in a jar ready to go. Let's see. Oh, I'll show you one here. I've got up here. I think it's just out of your guys' view. I can grab one. This is a loaded baked potato soup.
Ooh, and I'll tell you what,
good.
come inside from shoveling snow or working outside, and that hits it.
It's heated up in about 5 minutes. You're ready to go. A quick green salad, and you've got a great meal right there. And it is bacony and smoky and creamy and thick and delicious. So
I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
You're ready to give out the recipe. They're going to be asking for it.
I know, everybody wants the recipe.
You brought it out, they're going to ask.
I know, everybody's going to want it. I don't know. I'm not sure yet. I'm actually still in recipe development mode right now for some of these things for this class that's going to come out this summer.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Oh, man.
So then I'm going to share them all with you guys. This one has definitely made the final cut.
Oh man, I'd say.
Yeah, we're tweaking the seasonings a little bit, and then make sure it's all dialed in right.
Then maybe you'll be ready to share it.
Then I'll be ready to share it.
All right.
Not yet, but it'll come.
Cool. All right.
So what about you? What have you been up to?
Oh man, shoveling a little snow. Still working on garden and planting. It's this year because we're on a new spot. We've got new ground. It's larger. There's a lot of different nooks and crannies, and so that's a bigger project this year than it would be on our last property where we had been rolling for a while. And honeydews, you're keeping me busy with the honeydews.
Nice long list.
We're in a fairly new house, right? We moved in this fall, and there's just a lot to do. Yeah. So. Keeping up with all the projects indoors is tough. And so new lamp to hang in the dining room, not really the pantry, we're in the pantry, but the area outside of the kitchen, I'm losing the words, your appliance row.
Oh yeah, my appliance bar.
Yeah, appliance bar where a lot of
the kitchen
appliances are that don't fit in the kitchen. That's kind of a disaster, and I know you need that working. And so just trying to get the indoor projects done.
Yeah, before spring comes.
Before spring hits. And,
now, I'm going to add one thing because you're... I won't add one more thing to your honeydew list. There's a lot on there already. But with the garden planning, I just ordered in asparagus crowns. Right. Because the asparagus bed that was here when we moved in.
It was a nice one. It's sizable. It's dedicated. But it's
It's seen better years.
We decided it was not recoverable. This
Right.
thick mats of grass, we're going to have to just tear it all out.
Tear it all out, start fresh, and get those in there. And I got 3-year-old crowns coming, so we may be able to eat a little bit this year.
That'll be a good video though when the time's right.
Yeah,
you know,
we'll share it with
show
you guys.
how we rehab an asparagus patch. That'll be fun.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Keep nudging us so we remember.
Right.
We said that.
A lot to do.
A lot to do.
Yeah. Can't catch it all on film.
All right.
So, okay, well, let's dive into today's topic: how to start a homestead with no money. Now, if we're talking no money, like no money, I don't know.
You got other problems.
You got other problems,
homesteading,
right?
If
So
you're at zero.
right, yeah. But the idea here is how can you get going with what you have?
You're already bringing in.
You're living somewhere. You want to get to a homesteading lifestyle. You want to raise more of your own food, the livestock that comes with it, the skills. But you don't have money to buy property. You don't really have a lot of extra money to throw at structures or animals. But you want to get started right where you're at. And how do you do that? That's a challenge. And we faced that.
Yeah.
We started literally in an apartment in the city.
Yeah.
Now we had some skills, so we had little things going before that, but we were playing with it even in an apartment.
But we filled that apartment up with plants all over the balcony.
Right.
We had a nice little salad garden out there.
And that ties right into step number 1 is start where you are and with what you have.
This is, no matter how much money you have, this is what you should do.
Oh,
right?
yeah, if your resources are unlimited,
right.
Even if you're on the other side, you're better actually to start where you're at, working with what you have. And we'll get into in just a minute. There's a lot of stuff you can do just by rearranging life and habits and patterns that you can start building skills.
I gotta say that having no money or little money to get started with is actually probably a huge blessing in disguise, because more people fail from having too much resources to put into it, and they just get into the middle of it so deeply that they end up losing so much money and so much time and being really wasteful. So, look at it from the other angle and say, this may be a real blessing that this is going to cause me to slow down and use the resources that I have really wisely.
And a good example of that is just gardening. Since we're going to be talking a lot about gardening, you might have the resources, you might have the space to go do a giant, 3, 4, 5,000 square foot garden or larger first year garden, and you just throw everything at it. It might go well, but your failures are going to be large.
Yeah.
And they're going to be hard to figure out, and it can go bad quickly. You take 100 square feet, 200 square feet, and meticulously plan that. All your energy is into that, not spread out so large. You are creating a recipe for success, and you can then build off of your successes.
Right.
Regardless of what resources you have.
Without putting so many resources into it in the first place and then losing a lot of them.
So starting small, starting where you're at.
Starting right where you are.
So let's get into a few details on that, because that's really the core of it. But what are some ideas? And a lot of it starts in the home before we even get outside. There's skills to build in the home that are going to help you out a lot and should cost very little to no extra money. Right.
Yeah. So some of the foundational skills for living a more self-reliant lifestyle start in the kitchen, really. That is really where they start. And that's where you're going to see the savings, money-wise. That's where you're going to see the health benefit to you, which is huge. When you have more energy, you can get more done. That's a really big deal. And so really, you shouldn't be going and doing a lot of other things until you have your foundational skills in your kitchen dialed in and working for you pretty well. Some of those things are going to be cooking from scratch. I mean, that sounds so simple, but number one, you're going to save a ton of money cooking from scratch.
You can do some comparisons. Chips, canned food, do it by volume, by weight, and nutrition. A lot of your fresh food is less expensive. Now, we're not getting into organic. I mean, there's definitely layers.
You can
but
get expensive.
Start where you're at with what you have. If you can't buy organic, just buy fresh. But it's less expensive. And it's better. It just takes more work to produce. But that's building a skill.
So they say to shop the outside of the grocery store, where you're not in there where there's anything in a box. If it has more than one ingredient. I mean, if it has to say ingredients, think twice about buying it, really. Because you can put those ingredients together for way cheaper and in much better ways in your own kitchen. You're going to save a lot of money that you can start putting towards other places.
And if you don't understand what's in the ingredients, don't buy it.
Right,
period.
Please. If you can't say it,
you can't say it. If
it
you don't
doesn't
know what
belong
it
in
is,
your mouth.
yeah, just don't buy it.
Yuck. Okay, so that is a great place to start, is just by getting back to that from scratch cooking. And for some of us, that is a huge skill that has to be learned. You know, many of us have not been taught from moms or grandmas how to cook from scratch. And so that can be a process that takes you a year, 2 years, 3 years to really get that kind of under your belt and rolling along.
And if you don't have that skill, growing a large garden is pointless.
It's not going to help
You'll waste a lot.
Yeah.
So before you're even preserving, you need to know how to be cooking. Then you need to know how to be preserving as well, and you can cook from that. But you've got to be able to be cooking from scratch. And I'll tell a quick story about quite a few years ago when Carolyn was pregnant, and skills, we didn't even realize, I think, that we were at this level of skill set. But Carolyn's sister came over to help take care of her. I was working crazy long hours, and she was very pregnant, having some morning sickness, and was in bed, and we already had several kids. And her sister came to come help out and make a few meals. And her sister, they grew up, their mom cooked a lot of meals from scratch and cooked very well and healthy and a lot from scratch. So I would just say she was, very versed in cooking and not pre-made stuff. And she got to the house and she didn't know what to do. Because everything in our house, and at that point, that particular year, actually, we didn't have a garden. It was an in-between year. Yeah. And we had sold one property, and we were looking to move up to another property. And but we were buying at the farmer's market and doing it, and she literally didn't know what to do. She didn't know how to prepare. I don't even remember what happened. I don't know if I brought home pizza or what, but she didn't know what to do with that. And that was, again, at a place where we were just buying from the farmer's market, but Carolyn primarily was cooking everything from scratch. And so that's how far you can get just at home at the grocery store.
Right.
And that is an essential skill.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, going back to that from scratch cooking, you can go a long ways with that, right? Yeah. And get back, and it's so much cheaper to buy that way, to buy your groceries that way. But then the next step beyond that is to start buying bulk, to start bringing in your food in larger quantities in that from scratch, ingredients.
Right.
And that right there, that can be challenging because the upfront cost is more. Yeah. But the per serving cost goes way down. So you have to kind of save up and get some money together before you can do that.
Well, and you can also, with a lot of products, you can get the per serving cost down and the nutritional value up at the same time.
Right.
And of course, this is why we got started. We wanted healthy food for our family. Couldn't afford to buy it. We had to cook it from scratch.
Right.
But actually, as you get going, whether you're growing it yourself or you're, some things we've just got to get from a source. We're not doing everything ourselves. So that bulk buy is actually a double positive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Moves you ahead
less
that much
expensive,
faster.
more healthy in the bulk buy.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing that you can start off Cats are having a tussle in the over there. Another thing you can start off at right in your own home, and which is another great place to start in saving money, is to start making your own house cleaning supplies. That stuff just, a bottle of vinegar does not cost very much, and it will clean almost everything in your house. And add a little baking soda and a little dish soap, and you're kind of golden. You got what you need with a few spray bottles. So, stop buying the expensive cleaning supplies and start just getting your ingredients for your cleaning supplies and make your own. You will save a lot of money, actually pretty quickly, if you're used to buying all the little bottles of things.
Yep. And you're improving your health at the same time.
Right.
But I wanted to go back, sorry, because I just thought of a point with the bulk buy, because what a lot of folks say is, but I don't have the money to buy in bulk. That obviously that's a bigger purchase. I don't have a lot of funds. How do I do that? And so part of the skill is reallocating your money.
Right.
You know, it is starting to save a little bit and put a little behind in building that habit so you can get into a different buying cycle. You've got to get into a different buying cycle. And this only grows, it's talking about a skill of homesteading, it only grows as you move into this life. More and more, you're going to make larger purchases at certain times of year. You know, whether it's bulk buying grains, whether it's buying a lot of apples when they're in season to can them or make cider, or whether it's buying a side of beef. You're gonna start doing that to get the value and the health and that double positive. You're gonna start having to buy, you know, at different times of the year. So the skill of starting to reallocate your funds, and that might just have to start a little bit at a time. You know, and that's why the bulk buy is great. You know, before buying a side of beef or something else, you can just start saving a little money to buy wheat to then make your bread out of.
Right.
Because you can make great bread for, you know, pennies on the dollar almost of what you can buy in the store.
Well, and I have people ask me regularly, what should I start bulk buying? And my question to them is, well, what do you use a lot of? Because that's where you're going to save the most money, is if you can change those things that you're buying in, you know, a higher per unit cost, and you can change that over to a bulk buy with a lower cost, then you're going to start seeing those savings much more quickly.
Right, but so it doesn't take. It looks like it takes more money.
Right.
You know, and I've had people say, "Well, I can't do that. You know, I can't just go out and buy a 50-pound bag of wheat." Well, no, you might not be able to right off. You've got to start setting a little bit aside.
Save a little
As
bit.
you build that habit, that makes it easier to start buying in bulk. And I was thinking of another one, going back a little bit on going from the grocery store. What's the next step from the grocery store? Buying fresh produce at the grocery store, but say you're getting cooking from scratch now and you want to start preserving, you want to start buying fresh food but in bulk. You're not growing it yourself
Not
yet.
ready to grow
so
it
there's
yet.
a step in there that you employ that you did great at in the early years. You want to share that?
Yeah, that's either going to the farms directly or to the farmers markets and starting to buy bulk through them for preserving. And a lot of times, if you ask, you can find seconds at a better price. And those are the ones that just don't look pretty, so they're not going to put them out on the shelf and charge the premium rate for that, but they're still great. And I have gotten thousands of pounds of apple seconds for just a fraction of the cost that they would cost me if I were getting the pretty ones. But I'm going to stick them into applesauce anyways. It doesn't matter to me what they look like. So that's a great way to take the next step.
Good point, though, you're bringing up there, too. We're very trained in the grocery store to find the shiny, perfect
The pretty ones.
object. And so you got to get past that.
Yeah.
You know, you're not always going to have that in the garden, and your farmer or your guy at the farmer's market, he's going to have stuff that people don't want to buy because it's not all perfect and shiny. It's the stuff, or it's getting a little bit old, and those are the things that if you ask them, they might have bushels of it.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, we had a guy for years that you bought from in the early years that
did.
he knew she was coming.
Anytime he had fruit that was about to go, he'd
fruit,
call me.
It seems like beans, everything, you know,
All
there was
sorts of things.
all kinds of things, and you can get. It's not as, you know, as inexpensive as growing it yourself, but it's a great step. It's a great place to practice preserving and moving into that area of bulk preserving and storage.
There are also a lot of buying co-ops, especially if you live in more populated areas. It's harder for you to get access to a farmer or a farmer's market. You can often go into a health food store, local health food store, and ask them if there are any bulk buying co-ops around. And a lot of times that's just where a bunch of people are getting together and putting in some big order, and it's getting trucked in, and you go pick up all your apples or all your peaches or whatever it is that you've ordered. And that can be a great way to save money. But, you know, when you start buying things like that, especially fresh foods, then you have to go to the preserving. Right. Then you have to have the skill of
stepping
preserving.
up to a new skill. You're adding in. You're going from this is in home. Yet we haven't even gone outside yet.
Right.
You're just learning to cook from scratch. Now you're learning to take some of that produce and preserve it. And you know, you might as well learn some preserving that way while building your health before you're trying to grow a large garden or investing in an orchard or whatever.
Right. Yeah. So those are just important skills. You just add one on top of the other. And that starts changing your food dollar budgets a lot, your food budget dollars a lot, so that it's getting a lot further. You're able to get better quality food. You're able to get more food for the dollars that you're spending as you gain those skills, and then those extra dollars can start going somewhere else. I know a lot of people are looking, they want so badly to move out to the country, and so what they're really asking when they say, how do I get started homesteading with no money, is how do I buy a piece of property with no money? And you know, it just doesn't work that way. There aren't those programs out there anymore that have this great free land. But the old-fashioned way does work. Start figuring out how to bring the finances down and save some money and get it set aside.
Well, you're also building the skills, and we talked last week about knowledge and skills. And so in doing this, you're building skills right where you're at. You're changing your spending patterns. You're changing your time allocation. You're because you are going to spend more time preserving, but you're building skills that if you do take that leap to a larger piece of property, you've already innately got some skills. Instead of trying to learn how to garden, learn how to take care of animals, learn how to cook from scratch, learn how to preserve all at the same time, right? So that is really, really important. Let's see, do we want to step outside a little bit?
Oh yeah, gardening space. How do we start gardening animals?
Yeah, well, you know, gardening's the best place to start, and that's where a lot of people can start. You don't have to have a large piece of property to have a garden. You can start very small. I mean, you can start by a 3x3, 4 foot by 4 foot patch if you need to. And
you can start on the balcony of an apartment if you need to.
In pots.
In fact,
that is what we did.
You can start I'm sprouting in soil right now because I don't even have access to my own dirt outside soil outside right now. And so we're doing some planting in pots in the house. Yeah. And so getting some greens.
Even that, you're learning seed sprouting, you're learning soil. There's a lot of skill there. So that's saying even if you don't have any ground, you're in a high rise, you're in a condo, you're in some situation where you have no space to do anything outside. There are still things that you can do right where you're at, and those, they're gonna take a little bit of money to do, but it's still not very expensive. Yeah, to play around with that. But moving outside, gardening, it's the great place to go. It's the next step. And most of you know that. Most of you are probably doing that on one level. But building those gardening skills, again, just starting small. You don't have to grow a big garden. There's lots of different ways to garden. Just learning how to take care of your soil and start seeds and grow a few plants. And that is not a huge investment at all. Yeah. And again, you're building skills.
Yeah. So for not a huge investment and for getting healthier for it, you're eating better, you're bulk buying foods, which means that you also have some food storage, which is great, right? So you're getting that backup food supply for yourself. You're able to maybe get out and start a small garden, and none of this costs very much money, and it all is building you skills towards that day when maybe you do end up on that piece of property that you're really looking for. Right,
and you know, one more is just on the outside or the skills side is fixing things yourselves.
Yes.
And just learning, it's amazing. Even electronics, you don't have to be a genius. You don't have to be, 20 years old or 18 years old. And I know our 14-year-old, he's great. He's grown up with this. We didn't grow up with our hands in electronics so much, and he's just got a mind for figuring it out. But I've learned from my son to take apart some things that, well, why not? I'll try it and see. And, I got no problem with a truck or an engine or whatever, but, obviously our lives are more complex. Start just fixing things. Whatever you can, try to do it yourself. And try to build something small. Build. If you're going to do gardening, you're limited space and you need to do container gardening, build a container. And play around. That's another way that is building skills. And all of these things translate. You can do it right where you're at, and it all translates. And I'm going to say, you're homesteading. You have the homesteading spirit.
Absolutely.
You may not be technically homesteading a piece of land, either by technical definition or just being out, in the country, but you are living with that mindset, and that's the most important part of all, really.
That really is, and that is the heart of what homesteading is. Is just that mindset, and that's the important thing there.
It is, and I see we're getting low on time.
Okay.
I did want to breeze through the last two topics if we can. We'll try to be quick, but auditing. there's a word, right? You'd say
scary.
auditing, you think of the IRS,
word.
right?
It really
You
is,
think of the
yeah.
IRS, and I learned to use that word from studying permaculture. And permaculture teaches us to audit our resources, to look at the cost versus the benefit.
Right.
And so really what it goes down to is record keeping, keeping records, planning, and then after you've achieved something, after you've raised a garden, after you've bought a lot of vegetables and canned them, what was the cost, what was the energy input, and how did it work out? Because, and chickens is a great example. Everybody wants to get chickens and raise eggs and have organic eggs. Is it cost effective? Not always. It's one of those ones that's actually a gray area. There's a lot of reasons besides just money to have the chickens, but we've got to take that into account, and it's a skill that a lot of people don't do. They just get it all in, and I want chickens, I want a garden, and you just start spending money and spending your time doing it without really auditing yourself, without really planning, and then measuring your success and seeing what worked and didn't work. And especially when you're limited on resources. I mean, we don't want to really waste resources anyways.
Right.
And it's important to have that mindset in this lifestyle, and really in any lifestyle, not to waste resources. But if you want to be successful here, if you want to do the most with what you have, you've got to audit yourself. You've got to budget or make a plan and then execute it and then audit it. Look at it, say how did it go? Was that worth my time?
Right.
And maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Maybe you decide, well, we shouldn't do that right now, or you might learn and then make adjustments to make it more profitable for you down the road.
Right.
And that's really time, your own energy, and money. Those are the three things that you're auditing in all these different areas.
Those are the big ones. There can be other reasons to do things, even if they don't hit markers on those, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, we do a lot of things. We want the kids to build skills. We're building skills to us as a value, so that's inherent. And matter of fact, we don't usually include our time. We would include that in business, in the homesteading skills. We don't usually include that as part of the audit. So we don't include the labor in producing chicken eggs. The kids are doing that. We're doing it. There's a lot of other value there, but it still needs to make sense with the money that we're spending and the time we're using. Exactly. It needs to at least be a break even. I mean, if it's costing us $10 to produce a dozen of eggs and we can buy better eggs for $6,
right,
we really need to look at that, even if we really want to raise chickens, right? So, and that does happen. So that's important. To consider.
It is. It really is important to watch those dollars when it comes to what's going in and what's going back out.
Right.
So good.
Last one.
We're
kind of speeding up here, but joining forces. Collective energy. You want to talk about that?
Don't try to do it all, because you can't do it all on your own energy, but you also can't do it all on your own finances. But the good news is you don't have to, because there's probably other people out there who are in the exact same situation, and they would like to get some break on the costs too.
Right.
So whether that's going in together on a bulk buy of some sort that both of 2 people, 3 people, a whole neighborhood could split. Or it's going in on a project of some sort. Something like a community garden is a great example of that.
Right.
Where you kind of have, collective space that you can put towards something that you wouldn't have the resources to do otherwise. Look for opportunities to cooperate with other people who are looking to do the same things. That can be as simple as something like hosting a fermenting swap is one that comes to mind for me, which, does that sound crazy? It's like a cookie swap, for Christmas time, where everybody comes and brings one type of cookie and y'all pass it around. And so everybody goes home with all different kinds. Well, you do the same thing. You just all bring a different ferment that you've made, Somebody brings kimchi, and somebody else brings kombucha, and somebody else brings sauerkraut, and then you all swap around jars. And so you end up going home with all these different things, but you've only put the energy and the finances into one of them.
Right. Yeah, I think of a preserving party. I mean,
preserving
I don't know if that's a term, but a lot of cultures, and skills, traditional cultures, have gotten together as a community to preserve, to put up canned goods, to animal harvesting, all of that. So I know that's hard to come by, especially if you're more in an urban or suburban environment, but it's out there.
Yeah, and the
find
resources are getting
people.
more plentiful as more people get interested. And there's even things like equipment swaps, which is really important to keep an eye out for, because if you do want to do meat chickens, those chicken pluckers are expensive. Yeah. If you can share those amongst a group of you, then
well, that's what we
even
do.
better.
Yeah,
that's what we've done.
We have some
years.
family friends that we get together every year, and we process our birds together. And it's a lot of fun. We're working hard, but it's a lot of fun together, and it lowers the effort and the cost.
And the cost for everybody.
It's really good.
Good.
Okay, so start with what you have.
Yes.
Work
very
with
important.
what you have. There's a lot of skills you can build with the means that you have. Practice saving. You got to change your saving cycle, your money spending cycle, so that you can buy in bulk.
Right.
Right.
Very good.
And time, energy, and money auditing, just record keeping, budgeting, planning. That doesn't cost you any money to do, and will help make what you have go farther.
Yep.
And working with others where you can.
Yeah.
Those are all super valuable. That can allow you to go a long ways and build a lot of skills with no money. And as you get those things dialed in, hopefully you're saving money for that eventual leap to the next step.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very.
Make sure you leave a comment for us below, and ask any questions, leave any comments, give any of your ideas on what you guys have found have worked really well for getting homesteading with low input.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And so next week, as we're wrapping up, you guys have asked a lot about the garden and about soil and problems resulting around the gardens, which usually goes back to a soil issue.
Right. This has been one of the top 5 challenges that people had, was that they have garden soil problems.
Yeah. Absolutely. So we've got 8 inches of snow on the ground, so we're not going to get out into the soil right now, but we're going to come back here to the pantry, and there are just some key basics that we can talk about right here to build healthier, happier gardens. So we'll see you then.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.